So hello, welcome to Live Stream Insiders. My name is Peter Stewart, and I've written and practiced radio and TV broadcasting over the last 20 odd years, and some of them have been very odd, I can tell you. So working for a well-known British broadcasting organisation and training people throughout that organisation and around the world in the production and presentation techniques, as I say, for TV and radio. And about to introduce herself is Krishna Day.
Hi, my name is Krishna Day, and for the last 11 years or so, I've actually been teaching and educating organizations, entrepreneurs, and basically everybody who wants to listen about the topic of social media. In fact, I was talking about social media before it was called social media. I was talking about content marketing before anybody came up with that term. It was all about actually how do we connect and engage and share valuable content rather than pitching. And so my life has changed a lot since then, and I'm delighted to be here to co-host this show where we bring you the latest trends, technology, tips, and case studies about live video. It's something that both Peter and I are really passionate about. Live video, we also talk about social video as well. And so Live Stream Insiders has got an archive of content from everybody from organizations such as the BBC, RTE, the Irish broadcaster, through to police using live streaming, through to musicians using live streaming. Our passion is about actually helping others understand the power of live video and how it can actually support your organization internally or externally. The show to this today is all about news. We have regular news stories that we actually are archiving and curating that we see, and we want to bring those to you. So Peter, with no further ado, we probably need to get into the first story.
Absolutely. So we've got details about a new app that you may have seen some Facebook Livers and Periscopers be using over the last week or so, called Busker. And also we're going to be talking about those updates to Periscope and inevitably some good news or some good scopes or good streams, I should say. Let's not just limit it to Periscope, some good streams and some less good streams that we've spotted over the last 7 days. But this was of particular interest that I spotted during the course of the week. And these links will be on our Twitter feed a little bit later on. And this one from skyword.com, that's sky, WORD.com. And it's all about, they did a little feature, quite an extensive and really well written feature about the psychology about why we like live video in the first place. So this being Live Stream Insiders, we're not just talking about the tools and the tech and the platform, but also generally about the whole concept of live streaming. So the psychology behind why we like live video. And they put it down into several headings. Number one, voyeuristic thrills, because looking behind the scenes, having that backstage pass, never know exactly what is going to happen, see places that you don't normally expect to see with perhaps a very special guide. So whether it be literally behind the scenes, behind that curtain at the theatre, which I have seen a couple of times, or behind the scenes at a factory maybe, or down in the cells at a police station, all sorts of behind the scenes. That's one reason why we like live video. Number two, suspense. And it's special. You never know, obviously, with live video, what it is that you're going to see. You never know what's going to happen. It could go horrifically wrong, or there could be a little bit of beauty. There could be a little bit of magic that comes out of something being live and special rather than recorded and edited. Number three, instant feedback, instant communication. You can actually discuss what it is that you're showing or what it is that you're seeing, depending on what side of the camera you are, with the host or with the viewers. And of course, has been said several times before, of course, you can actually, as a viewer, direct the person, direct the broadcaster or the director, so you can decide what you want to see. You can actually influence the show that you are seeing. And number four, the FOMO effect, FOMO, so the fear of missing out, will affect people's behavior. If other people are going to be seeing it, if other people are going to be talking about it, if other people are perhaps giving hearts or making comments, you want to see what they're seeing. You want to be involved, and also you want to be somebody that's seen to be there, making some comments and perhaps their name being seen in that drop-down list. So 4 psychological reasons about why we like viewing live video at skyword.com.
That actually made me think about that Peep Show. I don't remember that from one alcoholic beverage brand. I remember last year on Periscope, Peter. I can't remember who that was, but great article. And maybe we could actually even think about, is there actually a psychologist who could come and join us on a future episode to actually talk about that? The next article we've got for you is from a platform that, in fact, many of you, I'm sure, watch and read, which is Mashable. And what caught our attention here, it's actually a story about them. It was on the HollywoodReporter.com. And the fact that actually Mashable is going to be planning some Facebook Live programs. Now, I have to say they've done some great work in terms of on other live streaming platforms that I've actually watched and have connected with some of their journalists through that. So they're going to do some Facebook Live programming. That's actually a significant part of their effort there. 35 hours of original content every month on Facebook Live. And there's going to be a new weekly video show there. Interesting, in fact, those of you who are journalists will also know there's been lots of shifts in the world of journalism in terms of how people spend their time and how people are allocating their time. Mashable have had a significant change there in terms of their staffing, but now they're actually looking to make a push to make more video. You know, that's not a trend that I'm seeing is being ignored by lots of other publishing platforms actually moving into video. So will be interested to see what kind of content they create. And I'm not surprised they're on Facebook Live. I would anticipate they might also stream to other platforms in the future too, to actually give them that reach. So be interesting to watch.
And very, very interesting. I've been seeing some broadcasters, the BBC, for example, doing special shows for Facebook Live. Not overly produced shows, but what I'm saying is a different kind of content, not necessarily just streaming what is in a TV studio, but doing something different and special. For example, I've seen a couple of examples recently over the past 2 or 3 weeks of some of the debates going on for the police and crime commissioners in England, and a couple of radio stations have held debates on that. One particularly was just off air, was just on Facebook Live. From one platform to another one, that's one of the first of recent times, but is now trying to play a little bit of catch up, and that is Periscope. And of course, Krishna, they've had quite a few updates over the last 7 days. They announced them, and now they're rolling those out, and we are allowed to talk about them because both of us are on the beta test for Periscope, so we've got that kind of special access to some of the features for Periscope, which are going to be coming on over the next few weeks. And first of all, they're going to be linking in with drones, at least the DJI series of drones. We've talked about in the past about how we're linking in with GoPro. That was about 6 months or so ago. Now they're linking with drones. And of course, we had a guest about 4 or 5 months ago who was an expert in drones and gave us all sorts of information and background information and details about drones and about filming from drones. So maybe we should be getting him back on again to do another show about live streaming from drones. So that's really, really interesting. And you can actually have the drone pictures sent down to your phone on your in your hand. That's going to be quite tricky, isn't it, to control the drone and be looking at those comments as well at the same time. You're going to have to be an octopus, or have, like Krishna has today, a special producer with you who's able to monitor your feed at the same time. So that's number one. Number two, searches are going to be made much more easier to so your content is going to be easier to archive, and also people are going to be able to find your information, your streams, much more easily. That fits in, as I kind of hinted there, with the fact that your scopes are going to be saved for more than 24 hours. In fact, potentially, they are going to be kept forever. You'll still be able to manually delete those if you actually want to, That's no kind of privacy problem on that score. You could delete it as soon as you finished, of course. So saving your Periscope and then making it more searchable. At the moment, you have to put hashtag save in the title, but in future that is going to be going, and that situation is going to be rolling out. However, if you want to have your scope saved under a particular title or topic subject tab, then put the hashtag for that actually in the title of your scope at the time. Now, Krishna, I noticed that one clever wag decided to put this to the test during the course of the week and actually did just a bland Periscope, but actually included in the title hashtag art, hashtag news, hashtag teach, hashtag talk, hashtag inspire, hashtag travel, hashtag sport, hashtag food, hashtag music, all in the title, and then found that their Periscope was saved under all of those tabs. So that's kind of breaking the rules a little bit, but putting it to the test that actually if you want to make your show super discoverable, then that, of course, is what you can do to kind of hack the system. So I would suggest that if Periscope limited that to maybe just 3 hashtags per title, it may make a little bit more sense. But that is the big news from Periscope over the last 7 days, and that is being able to stream from drones, but also your scopes lasting longer and making them more discoverable as well.
Now, to be able to access that, make sure you download version 1.4 of Periscope on your iPhone. When I checked my Android device, though, I couldn't see. In fact, I haven't checked it in the last 24 hours, but I can't see that update being available there. So I'm sure they'll be getting to that soon. The one thing I did do is I did go and check and did some searching myself within the app. And I noticed that even if I just put in words, so I didn't even have to put with Boolean search where you put a quotation marks around it. Let's say I just searched for the words Dublin. I actually then got content. It didn't have to have been hashtagged in the title. So we don't necessarily want tweets that go out with lots and lots of hashtags. So I think experiment yourself, see what works, make sure you get discovered. It's just a really good reminder to make sure that we've got titles for our Periscopes that are relevant. But I'm really pleased to see that. I think that discoverability, plus the fact that content can be there for more than 24 hours, that's going to help a lot more people get replays viewed, I think, isn't it? So the next thing we just want to talk about is, as we're talking about platforms at the moment, let's talk about Blab for a moment. And I know there have been a number of glitches with Blab. And this is just one that I'd been in conversation with. And I know, Peter, you'd actually been looking at this too. So one of the things that we do on Blab, and one of the reasons that we like using the platform, is the fact that we can embed the content. So I actually have a page on a website. We don't actually have a website yet for Livestream Insiders. That's something that we're talking about will probably come in the not too distant future. But I've got a page on my site so I can look to cross-promote it. So if I'm at events, I put Livestream Insiders over on my business cards. It's on email footers. It's on all sorts of places to try to encourage people to come and see, not necessarily us always live. It may not be the perfect time for people to watch live, but certainly to actually look at the archive content, particularly when we've had brilliant guests with us. And so I'm embedding that content. One of the things that I noticed is that actually if you're logged out, you cannot see any of that content. So that's a relatively recent change. Also, if anybody comes to your URL, let's say you give a URL specifically for a show, again, and if you're not logged in, you can't view it. Now, I don't know about you, Peter, but I like to sometimes listen and learn and don't necessarily always want to disclose it's me there, not for any other reason than to say, I've got it streaming in the background. If people see I'm here, very often, it's not just here, but other platforms, people start to ask questions. How are you? And actually, I'm not paying attention to the comments area. I've just got it streaming, as I might do in terms of radio or something else in the background. And I'm listening to what's being said. I'm just not paying attention to the commenting. If I hear something of interest, I might come over and then jump into the conversation. So there's some real significant reasons that I actually would rather not always be saying that I'm watching. I can't do that any longer. And so I did actually reach out to them, and they came back and they said login is required, so hosts know who's watching their blabs. It helps hosts interact with their audience. I guess I'd have a slightly different perspective, as I do think it's actually impacted the number of people who watch us live and the number of people who watch us as a replay. So one of the things that I've done this week for Livestream Insiders over the course of the week is I have made sure I'd already downloaded all of the audio and video content, but I've pushed all of that content to our YouTube channel as well. Now, I haven't made that public on YouTube because in our experience is that when we actually have done that with our own content, not just our content that we do together, that replays are usually not significant there, and therefore our shows could do with some editing before they go there. And both Peter and I were doing this for free, and therefore our availability of time to be able to do that is limited. Perhaps we can look at that in the future, which is why we're thinking about doing a podcast of some of our content too. But just something to be aware of. Be aware that people cannot watch your shows unless they're actually logged in. And for some people, they actually would need to create an account for the first time. And that could be a barrier because they're not seeing what you're sharing. So one of the things you might do is take an element of your show and promote that using other platforms that are equally able, people can see. So Twitter video, you can use that. You could use a little snippets on Instagram, obviously content uploaded to Facebook, content on YouTube that might then encourage people to say, wow, that's a great show. It's worthwhile actually giving my Twitter account into this platform that I've not come across before to actually come and watch it. Who knows if it will change in the future, but that's just something for you to watch out for in terms of your hosting shows. People do have to be logged in now to watch them either live or as a replay.
So from Blab to a brand new app. Now, up until a week, 10 days ago, Busker was the word that would spring to mind if I was on the London Underground and I heard the strains of Ralph McTell's Streets of London emanating down the down the walkway. But Busker is the name of a new app that some people are saying could take over from Periscope. Well, I'm not so sure about that. Of course, as we've said before, the beauty of Periscope is that it's linked through Twitter. And the beauty of Facebook Live, inevitably, is that it's linked through Facebook. So most other apps, they don't have that secondary platform through which to distribute their content and to gain and gather other users, which is always going to be a bit of a struggle and a bit of a problem for them. Unless your content or unless your app is particularly different. So let's just take a little look at Busker. Now it may very well be, of course, that actually you're using Periscope for one thing, Facebook Live for something else, Blab for another reason, and maybe Busker for something else. Let me tell you a few things about Busker if you haven't come across it before. Look out for the app that Krishna was showing you the logo thereof a few moments ago. And the difference with Busker is, don't tell anyone, but you could get paid. You can sell things via Busker, which is really, really different. Now, at the moment, it's only available on iOS, and you can schedule. So it's a little bit like Blab, it's a little bit like how Meerkat was, but you can actually schedule a broadcast. And of course, what that means is that you can tease, you can entice, you can trail, you can encourage more people to come into your show because they're going to have to sign up. They don't have to. They could sign up. They'll then get a notification. So you've got that chance to tease and entice them with that advert, and then they'll get a notification when you do go live. And I do think that maybe Periscope is missing a trick. Perhaps they're falling back on the fact that it's going to be pumped out through Twitter anyway. So perhaps they're thinking we don't actually need that scheduling capability. So that is something that a lot of Periscope people have wanted for a very long time. You sign up through Twitter, ironically, or Facebook, and your details, your bio is automatically pulled over. So what about this payment part? Well, right now, people who view you can then can give you money, can give you tips anywhere between $1 and $20. They pay through credit card or PayPal, and they do it while you're actually live, while they're actually, or when they are watching the replay. And coming soon, you'll be able to sell directly on your platform as well. So what that is likely to be is a button that you can press as a viewer, and then to be taken straight to some other kind of platform or website where you'll be able to sell your book. Hey, how about that? Selling a book through Busker, or maybe something else. Maybe you get a code or some kind of download, or you sign up to an email marketing message or something of that nature. So that's a quick overview. With 9 minutes to go till the end of the show, let's talk about the pros quickly. As I say, you can monetize your program, which is obviously going to be a huge advantage. There are lots of categories for broadcasters, mainly based, as the name might suggest, around music and the artistic area of things. So far, it's really, really quiet. So you could be a new starter on Busker, make a name for yourself there, build up the people who are following you, and therefore that means that at the moment very few trolls to worry about, because not many people know about it, and as I say, that scheduling capability. The problem is at the moment, few little glitches. Inevitably, it is a new app, so once you get into it, your microphone and your camera aren't automatically enabled. You've got to go through to your settings to allow Busker access to your mic and to your camera. And also your titling and the bio, very, very short, much shorter than Periscope. So you've really got to use your old noodle there to work out exactly what the important things are that you say early on in your bio. Viewership, inevitably very low. Psst, Periscope viewership is pretty low at the moment as well. Busker will take 20% of your earnings. That sounds quite a hike, doesn't it? And also, of course, just beware that no one really wants to be sold to on any app. So use that selling thing, or asking for money, use that selling capability very, very carefully, because people don't like the hard sell. So let's move on to some good streams and some bad streams, which we've spotted over the course of the week. A couple of very worrying ones. But first of all, Krishna, you spotted one from the Texas Rangers.
I did, but before I do that, I don't know if you've joined Busker, and I just wanted to mention, you'll find me there. I've done a live stream earlier on today, and guess what you'll find? Lots of familiar faces. So even if nobody uses it, what I noticed is if you're on Periscope and you're on Blab in particular versus any other live stream platform, you'll see lots of people are there. And a lot of them have actually just made sure they've got their account. So that's no bad thing from a personal branding perspective, to make sure that, if you're interested in live streaming, even if you're not going to use it. But there is one organization which I think is worth noting. So you can actually, your content gets archived into, as you said, different categories. And one organization that was already following me, because I know them, you know them as well, they've been on the show, Archon Mounts. And interestingly, just to show you, that's the cover image that they've got. And so Archon are obviously doing something very specific there. They've actually got 20 days of Archon giveaways. Great way for them to build a following. Of course, they've got a bigger following than many other people I looked at. And you can see over the last number of days, probably 3 days, they've actually been doing some content there. Now, I haven't checked to see if that's the same content they're multi-streaming into other platforms, of course, with their wonderful multi-live streaming mounts as well. But worthwhile checking out. I do think worthwhile getting the app. My concern about it, though, is the quality. The quality of the broadcast, in terms of the quality of the video, was not anywhere as good in terms of my experience versus other apps we've looked at. The other thing I thought was interesting is, again, you can save your broadcast at the end, and the broadcast doesn't come out in terms of landscape or a nice portrait. It seems to be shortened. It doesn't seem to be quite square. So I'm not sure about how I'd repurpose that. And the last thing for me, when I actually was looking at it, is when you actually want to replay. So something that we looked for a long time in Periscope, having a replay, you don't go left to right. They obviously wanted to do something different. You go up and down. So now you've got to get used to actually flicking through somebody's replay in a different way. But definitely worthwhile, probably at least getting your account to lock it down. And I just logged in with Twitter. So in terms of a live stream that actually we thought was interesting to look at, and again, we'll put this link out there. I have to say, I don't personally follow them. I came across this and just in terms of looking at some content that was going to be of interest in terms of organizations using Facebook Live. But the Texas Rangers, you'll find them on facebook.com/Rangers. And they did quite an interesting live stream in terms of showing them actually in practice. So it's that thing about behind the scenes. I did think they probably are using some kind of stabilizer or gimbal. It was pretty smooth, but there was a bit of wind noise there. So perhaps that's something that they could get some advice from you on, Peter, in terms of reducing wind noise when you're out and about doing your wonderful live streams for your organization and the things that you do. But worthwhile taking a look at in terms of getting it up close and, obviously not disrupting the players. I thought that was also interesting, not disrupting the players from what they were doing, but giving fans something of interest and getting really up close in terms of seeing them practicing. I'm sure they've been live streaming themselves for practice anyway. Lots of teams do that, and they run video, then they look back at themselves in terms of how can they improve their swing or whatever else, whatever depends on the sport they're in. But do take a look at them, facebook.com/Rangers.
So that's really interesting, and some really good pictures there behind the scenes, which is something that we spoke about right at the start of the show. What I thought it lacked was any kind of commentary or explanation. It was just pictures, and even though it moved a little bit, it didn't really show an awful lot. But it was interesting that they were trying. Here's another one with 4 minutes to go till the end of the show. The Washington Post has had an interesting Facebook live section because one of their reporters decided that Dana Milbank, he decided that he would eat a newspaper. He said that he would eat his words if Donald Trump got the nomination for the Republicans, and then of course he did. So now Dana has decided he had to eat his words. They got a chef in who actually cooked up a copy of the newspaper article, and then Dana sat and ate it. It took him from 1 hour 14 minutes to eat the cooked edition of the newspaper, which I thought was quite fun and a little bit interesting. So something from the Washington Post, quite serious, but showing a really different a different viewpoint, a different kind of attitude. So bear in mind with your brand, whether or not you're going to stick really true and very, very carefully to your brand, or whether you're going to branch out occasionally and have a little bit of fun to disrupt it a little bit and surprise people. A couple of bad streams that we saw this week. Krishna's got one in a few moments' time, but also they're very bad and they're very sad news indeed of someone who is reported to have periscoped their own death in France during the course of the week. You know what? The organisation I work for has strict guidelines about what you talk about in these kind of situations, so we won't dwell on that. But obviously that's very, very sad and very upsetting news, and I know that Periscope are looking into ways that they can restrict those kinds of shows staying up for long. But another rather disturbing Facebook Live stream this week as well, Krishna.
Yeah, and we've talked about this kind of content before, but this time it's actually teenagers reportedly live streaming in terms of having sex and using that platform in terms of Facebook, which they've obviously got access to live stream from their personal profiles to do that. This is actually from the US. The story was reported in Gizmod, which is where we saw it. And the teens were aged 14 and 15. And at the time when we were looking at it, they actually, Facebook hadn't commented. Tying into what Peter was just saying, there's an article again that we'd come across on the next web, which was the fact that Periscope's been working with Twitter's Cortex team to look at how to categorize and identify content in live broadcasts. And I think, therefore, in terms of situations, we've unfortunately talked about things like rape. We've talked about just their suicide. We've talked about this kind of content. That would be no bad thing in terms of if there was the ability for some identification of that content. The article goes on to say about most people adhere to their rules but actually this is a way for us to get access to those things. So again, as a parent of teens, this kind of thing always concerns me. We did have a great live stream earlier on this year for Safer Internet Day, and do check that out if you know people who've got young people in their family and they're looking at live streaming. I think we need to be aware as parents, as guardians, as anybody involved with young people of the risks that are there. So yeah, not good news, unfortunately.
Okay, that's where we will leave it. We've spoken about Periscope and Busker, and also Facebook Live, the psychology of live video, and also categorizing live video, and also Blab as well. We said we'd do it in 30 minutes, and we did, right on the nose. So thanks very much indeed for watching or for listening back. And we'll be back at the same time next week for more news about all sorts of live stream platforms and apps and tech and tips and other things to do with various aspects of live streaming. My name is Peter Stewart, and with Krishna Day, we are Live Stream Insiders.
And particularly in terms of next week, if you're interested in the issues of copyright and legal issues, that's the topic of next week's live stream. We have somebody who's an authority in terms of intellectual property and media law. So make sure you register and subscribe for next week's event here on Blab. We'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody, for being with us.